Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /EntitledPeople, where people truly think they can do what they want, when they want, and in today's episode, we've got nasty Karen grandmas, rich entitled jerks, Karen parents, and one Obi tells a wild story about a psycho mother-in-law that stalks her for years, guys. So yeah, sit back, relax, and as always, try not to shake your heads too hard at today's stories. So this happened a few days ago at a grocery store. I was waiting patiently in my line, and beside me was the express lane for senior citizens and people with disabilities. There were a couple of elderly people sitting on the chairs provided specifically for them while waiting their turn. Pretty normal setup in the store. This is when some guy casually walks up and he cuts right in front of the seated seniors. I speak up and say, "Hey, they're already in line." And this guy, without even looking at me, goes, "I don't see them standing in line though. Doesn't count." The guy was real smug, real dismissive. The elderly folk looked uncomfortable, but they didn't want to cause a scene, so I shut up and I simmered. A few minutes later, we're still in the lanes. And that's when I notice that his cart's stacked with what looks like camping gear. Stuff like a sleeping bag, paper plates, marshmallows, instant noodles, a portable stove, that kind of stuff. And there was a single can of butane gas. Right there, I saw an opportunity. The guy's blabbering on the phone, totally distracted. So I casually lean over, pluck the butane from his cart, and I slide it into mine. The guy didn't notice. The guy checked out and left. I paid for my stuff, including his butane, and then walked away. Somewhere out there, this man arrived at his campsite, probably boasting about how smart and quick he is. And when he tried to fire up that portable stove, no gas, which means no hot food, no coffee, just crunchy noodles and the sweet taste of consequences. At least that's what we hope, right? And at the very least, the guy gets home and he realized he had to run back to grab the butane, which is still enough to be satisfying, guys. Also, like, the line cutting is one thing, but acting all smug about it when called out, especially when you cut in front of the elderly, oh my goodness. And this person shares a short related comment. They say, "Going through TSA security, I had pulled my iPad and laptop out and I put it in a bin. My jacket and purse is in another bin, and then my carry-on bag. The woman ahead of me set the alarm off going through the metal detector. She was instructed to take her sweater off and put it into a bin, as she should have while in the line. So she pulls off her cardigan and some other things. And instead of going back to get a bin for her stuff, she just says out loud, 'Oh, I'll just use hers.' And she proceeds to throw her stuff into my bin on top of my iPad. I grabbed her stuff and I say, 'No, you won't,' and I tossed it on the belt. Now, her indignation could have been heard the next country over, as she grabbed her stuff, gave me the dirtiest look, and went to get a bin. Meanwhile, I just pushed mine through and I walked through the detector metal-free. As I was putting my bag back together, she comes up beside me and she confronts me. She says to me, "So just so you know, I would have let you use my bin, but I'm not an a-hole like some people." I didn't like her attitude, so I said to her, "Good for you." And I let her know that 1, you can't put anything on top of electronics, and 2, I told her that she wasn't the proper lady she thought she was, in not so nice terms. Good grief, what the heck is wrong with people? This took place a few months ago. I'm home from college for the summer, and when I'm here, I work with my grandpa who's a surveyor. One of the places we regularly work at is a small airport in town. Small as in, there's a few runways, and the planes are those small ones that fit like 6 to 7 people max. The people who work there know both me and my grandpa personally, as we're the only surveyors they use since my grandpa has all the plats of the area. Well, one day, we start work at 8 a.m. and we head around to the side where they've dug out a mound for another holding building. To get into said dugout mound, you have to drive alongside a road, off into a dirt path, and up to a locked gate to keep people out to the best of their abilities. We drive up to the gate and there's no one there to let us in as per usual, so my grandpa tells me to wait at the Jeep while he walks over to the other building to get someone. I'm just standing there by myself, and after probably 10 minutes, an SUV pulls up behind the Jeep, and a woman sticks her head out the window. The lady says to me, "Excuse me, you need to move your car so I can get through." I respond, "Oh, I'm sorry, but no one's allowed through the gate unless you work here." The woman then asked me, "Well, do you work here?" I respond, "Not exactly, but..." She then interrupts and says, "Well, then you don't dictate who can go through or not. Now please move your car. I'm in a rush. I need to take my kids to school." She then gave me a really tight-lipped smile, and I looked through her windshield to see 2 kids in the back seat. The nearest school, the elementary, was a 20-minute drive away, and it started at 7:15 a.m., so they were late, I assumed. I tell the woman, "I'm sorry, but I don't even have the key to open this gate." She then says to me, "Listen here, young lady. My kids need to get to school. They're late. So move your car out of my way and let me through." Now, ignoring the fact that she called me a young lady, I respond, "This is an airport entrance, ma'am. No one's allowed to drive over to the runways and land. It's restricted." She then says to me, "Does it look like I have time for those rules? My kids need to go to school today." I just tell her, again, "I'm sorry, but I don't have the key to open this gate, even if it was allowed." This time, she didn't verbally respond. Instead, she decided the best thing to do was to lean on her car horn. I just got back into the Jeep, and as soon as I got in, she let up, I guess thinking I was going to move. Instead, I just sat in the driver's seat and waited. Not even a minute passes before she comes up and starts banging on the window. The woman shouts through the glass and she says to me, "If my kids get kicked out of school and fail, it'll all be your fault. I hope you can live with that." Then, she storms back to her car and finally left. I told my grandpa what happened when he got back, and he just laughed for a good 10 minutes. Guys, why am I not surprised that a Karen tried to trespass on airport property past a locked gate to shortcut her way to school? Like, entitled people do the wildest things, don't they? Like, trespassing is one thing, but on airport property, that's gotta be a serious offense, right? I only wish the gate was open so she could have faced the consequences of that. And this person comments, "Put up a sign that says, 'We don't care if your kids are the future top students at Harvard. No one's going through this airport as a shortcut. We don't care if your kids are late. That's on you. And your kids being late sure as hell isn't a good enough excuse to get your car through.'" So I thought I'd share a funny story. I didn't do anything, but I was the official witness to what happened. Back when I was in college, I had a job as the night receptionist / security for the dorm I lived in. It was an easy job. I would just check IDs of folks coming in to ensure that they were residents, or have them call a resident to have them escorted to their room. I also walked the floors and parking lot every hour. In the parking lot was the usual motley assortment of student cars. The back row was filled with fancy cars, all parked at an angle crossing 2 spots. Obviously, the rich kids. I had noted the illegal parking many times in my log. I also told the campus cops when they looped through. The campus cops told me not to bother, as the chief would just throw the tickets away because the parents would often call and raise hell that their babies had to park that way to protect their $100,000 cars. That said, most evenings, the night owls would hang out in the lobby, anywhere from 3 to 12 or more on exam weeks. I trusted a couple of folks to cover the desk while I did my rounds. One night, I've just settled down after a set of rounds. The pizza place had just delivered my sub and a 6-pack of Coke to get me through the long shift. Things are settling down and folks are starting to head to bed. It's around 2:30 a.m. All of a sudden, we hear bang, bang, bang from the lot. Of course, that sound was way too loud to ignore, so I and the remaining late night folks go see what's going on. We come out to see that every single fancy car had been hit, the exposed fender having been bashed in. Someone said they saw an unknown junker hitting every single one of them, backing up, hitting the next car, etc., and then taking off. This is when more folks come pouring out of the door to see what happened, including the rich kids who, of course, were yelling about the damage to their precious cars, telling me to call campus cops. I was already starting back to the lobby to call the cops anyways, and with them yelling at me, I just took my own sweet time. Then, this one cop shows up. He takes pictures of the damage and how the cars are parked, and then he starts writing tickets for illegal parking, which of course set the rich kids off once again. He says to them, fully documenting the damage includes documenting the illegal parking, which means I must issue tickets. Between the photos of illegal parking sent to the insurance companies and the tickets, none of the insurance companies paid out. Now, I have no idea if that was true or not, but that's what the rich kids claimed for months afterwards. From that day forward, no one parked at a slant anymore, taking up 2 spaces, and roughly half of the rich kids' cars were never seen in that lot again. Oh, I just love this post so much, guys. Like, imagine taking up 2 parking spaces so your car won't get dinged, and just having the bumper knocked off because someone is sick of your entitled attitude. That said, as a person who loves cars, just knowing that those $100,000 cars got damaged, oh, that hurts. But also, at the same time, can't say they didn't deserve it. And this person shares a comment that says, many years ago, we were stationed in the UK. My husband came home from work with this story. It seems one of his coworkers had bought himself a fancy, expensive British sports car, all black and polished to a mirror shine. Not wanting to get his fancy car scratched, he decided to take up not 2, but 4 parking spaces, right in the center of where all the lines crossed. He was at least considerate enough to park at the far end of the lot to do so, rather than close up to the building. Just on the other side of the fence from the parking lot was a pasture full of sheep and the hero of our story, the ram. Somehow, the ram got into the parking lot. He wanders around the lot for a bit, and then, much to his displeasure, what did he spot on the fancy, expensive British sports car, all black and polished to a mirror shine? He sees another ram. Clearly, this interloper was there to steal the females, and this could not go unchallenged. So he did what rams do. He backed up, took a running start, and wham! Into the side of the fancy, expensive sports car. But what's that? The other ram was still there. He was a stubborn bastard, so the ram pounded on him a few more times until there was no longer a mirror shine on the car. Satisfied, the ram trots away. After the coworker got his car fixed, he tucked it safely between 2 other cars, as far away from the field full of sheep as he could get. So this is a dark tale of my entitled, heartless grandmother. My maternal grandmother was entitled, and I knew this since I was a child. She's one of those people that always said children should be seen and not heard, but also they shouldn't be seen either. And yeah, she was that type of person. I honestly don't know why she even had my mother to begin with. Being from my culture, where you always have to obey the elder, the world had to revolve around my entitled grandmother. That said, on to my story. This takes place in 2002, and it was a time of my life I'll never forget. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. Long story short, when they found out about it, the cancer had spread to the lymph nodes, and from there, it made its way to her brain. She received unconditional support from all of us, well, most of us. My entitled grandmother choosing to only talk on the phone and in private. After each of those calls, my mother would be inconsolably sad and depressed. She often told my dad that grandma would say something like, "This cancer was for all the times you disobeyed me and acted out as a child. This is karma and you deserve it." We of course confronted my grandmother about those nasty things, and she had the same story each time. She would always say something like, "I did not say anything like that. It's just so hard and so stressful, and she's just over emotional and really misses me." Dad and I began shielding her from my grandmother's calls, all the while letting my grandfather talk to my mom. Now I should note that my saintly grandfather has medical conditions that prevents him from stopping the actions to come. As time passes, my mother has less and less lucid times. She was aware enough to spend Christmas Day with us, doing dinner and presents. It was bittersweet because we all knew that it was likely the last holiday we would all be together. Later that night, my grandfather called and he spoke with my mom. My mother was so happy, but then we noticed her face changes drastically. Being concerned, we asked Mom what was going on. That's when my mom hits the volume button so Dad and I could hear clearly. She lifted her hand to stop us from taking the phone away. She wanted us to hear what was about to go down, and what we heard was so twisted, so vile. My entitled grandmother got the phone from grandfather. We heard the sound of it being snatched away. She then gets on the phone and she asked, "How long is this gonna go on? A few more days? A few weeks? What? Do you know what's going on? And do you know how much stress this is putting on me? The anticipation, the inconvenience, the pressure, it's getting very difficult for me." At this point, I could see tears flowing from my mother's eyes. My mom then says, "Mom, I'm not gonna get any better." Grandmother responds, "I know that. I'm just asking when you think it's gonna be your last day." And hearing that, my father and I are in shock. Here's my mom's mother demanding she hurry up and die because the anticipation was stressing her own mother. And that was the end. The phone was disconnected by my dad. We told the family what transpired, and it was shock, soul-numbing shock. Unfortunately, my grandmother would get what she wanted. In early 2003, my mother's condition worsens and she enters hospice, and not long after she passes. The family cuts ties to my entitled grandmother. She's not part of the memorial or the burial. In 2004, I got married. My entitled grandmother is not part of the wedding or celebration. In 2006, my daughter's born. We named her after my wife's great-grandmother, and my mother's name is her middle name. A year after that, my entitled grandmother dies. My grandmother died mostly alone, survived by my grandfather, who would be whisked away to live with my family, surrounded by love for the rest of his days. I didn't attend any service for my grandmother. Instead, I spent the time with my daughter. My dad had a lot of stuff from my grandmother that she gave to my mother before my mother got sick. After my mom passed, my dad gave it all to me. The things I didn't want, he donated to the less fortunate. My dad would later tell me that he did this because my entitled grandmother hated me, and he knew that me having her things would just bother her to no end. I just love knowing that the people my entitled grandmother hated the most in life now have her precious material things. Holy moly, guys, you know I read a lot of wild stories on this channel, but once in a while I'll get a post that still leaves me baffled, and this is one of them. Like, it's always horrible to hear how people can treat others like that, especially their own children. And I think we can all agree that grandmother was a nasty, evil person. I just hope OP and the family are in a much better place and are much happier now. And if you guys thought that grandmother was nasty, listen to this story about OP's mother-in-law in the next post. So to start, my mother-in-law and I have never had a good relationship. She's tried to sabotage my relationship with my husband since the day she's met me. It was actually so bad that I contemplated ending my relationship several times, but my husband always showed me that he's on my side, and I love him for it. a few years ago, I started getting very threatening and scary emails and texts from a person. And the thing is, this person knew everything about me. It didn't matter how many emails and phone numbers I changed, the person always found me. I did make several police reports, but nothing happened. Nothing came of it. It actually got so bad that in the past year, I basically never left my apartment alone. All that said, as of recent, my mother-in-law passed away. I haven't received a single threatening text or email from this person in a month. After a few days, I wasn't surprised. I always knew it was mother-in-law deep down. My husband hasn't reacted yet. He's consumed with his grief, and I don't want to bother him, especially when he bitterly told me, "You must be very pleased now," when we heard the news. He did apologize later, and he said he spoke out emotionally as he knows how much his mom hates me. I'm just waiting for him to connect the dots. Also, I won't relax and go back to my normal life just yet, but I know it in my heart that it's over and I can't be happier about my life. Update. So I was here maybe a month ago talking about me suspecting that my mother-in-law was my stalker who tormented me for years on end. I decided to wait a little bit, but after venting here, I was sure she was my stalker. I started living like I never did before. I did 10-minute walks alone, then 15, then half an hour, and so on. At first, my husband didn't notice my freedom, or maybe he did but was processing it himself. But last Friday, I told him I was going out with the girls, and he said, "Alone?" I responded, "Yes." He then asked, "Do you want me to drive you there?" I responded, "No need." He then asked me if I'm not afraid anymore, and I told him, no, my stalker won't bother me again. When I came home around midnight, my husband was still up. He said he wanted to talk to me. He then asked me, "Was my mother your stalker all these years?" I respond, "Yes," and that's when he breaks down crying. He then said to me that he's always suspected her, and he's even talked to her a couple of times about it. And she made him feel so guilty about it, always denying it, asking, why would he say something so outrageous? He said to me that he noticed how after so many years of fear and anxiety, I'm starting to live again, and that I haven't woken him up in the middle of the night for a month now. I don't actually remember half the time I woke him up in terror, but he always told me and my therapist about it whenever it happened. He apologized for never discussing it with me and never protecting me from his family, even though he had suspicions. Honestly, I'm not even mad or disappointed. If the police couldn't help me, I don't know how much my husband could have done, aside from speaking to her, and I just really want to move on and leave this behind. We're going to start couples therapy, and my husband's planning to tell his family that mother-in-law was my stalker. He's adamant about it, and honestly, I think it's a good idea. My husband's also decided to not attend the headstone setting on mother-in-law's grave. Guys, the post ends right there, but what a story that was, right? And honestly, I've read a lot of psycho mother-in-law stories, but nothing to this extreme. Like, to have somebody that close to you hate you that deeply is terrifying. But yeah, what mother-in-law did was absolutely sickening, especially knowing how terrified OP was all those years, and she just kept doing it to the day she dies. And this person comments, "What a legacy to leave, stalking your daughter-in-law to the point of making her afraid to go out. It's kind of like the people who cheat for months or years and then die, only for their families to find out about the affairs, and instead of being mourned, they're being hated." Mother-in-law will likely never be spoken about in a positive light by OP, and hopefully by her son as well. And one of the top comments on this post says, "I often say this, find peace by visiting the grave of those who have wronged you and leave a drink as a goodbye present. However, filter it through your body first." One last comment, guys. This person says, "How horrible. So many years of living in fear, and he suspected it was his mother all along, but he didn't put any distance between them. They never moved. He never put his mom on an info diet to test the theory. I would be pretty upset with him, to be honest." I do kind of agree with that comment, like finding out about new phone numbers is easy, but mother-in-law getting access to OP's new email addresses to continue the harassment, that's probably all on hubby right there. but you know the deal. Leave your comments down below. What do you think about this post, and how would you react if you're in OP's shoes? So recently, I think I may have ruined my family. My parents have always treated my older brother like he walks on water. My brother's 41, married to a woman who comes from money, and has 3 kids in private school. Me, I'm 35 years old, married to a teacher, we have 2 kids, and we're doing fine, but we're not wealthy by any means. My brother also lives 10 minutes away from my parents. We live a few hours away, and we seldom visit, only on big occasions. That said, 6 months ago, my dad had a stroke. It was a bad one. He survived, but the medical bills were insane, even with insurance. One day, my mom calls me up crying, and she said they were going to lose the house. I talked to my husband, and we agreed to help. We wiped out our emergency fund, $23,000, and we sent it without asking my brother to chip in, because my mom said he was dealing with his own financial pressures, which probably means his wife didn't want to help despite being well off. And she's a story for a different time. Yesterday was my dad's birthday. My mom insisted that we make the drive to come out for dinner. The whole family would be there. It's been a while since we visited due to reasons, but when we walked in, I noticed the photo wall that was along the staircase was different. It had been rearranged. I noticed my brother's wedding photo was there, his kids' school pictures, his family portraits, my parents with my brother at his college graduation. The wall even had photos of my brother's wife's parents at their holiday parties. There were 0 photos of my wedding, 0 photos of my kids, not even the picture from my college graduation that used to hang in the hallway. My son notices before I did. He tugs at my sleeve and he pointed out and said, "Mom, how come we're not in any of the pictures on the wall?" My mom overheard this and she looks directly at me and she responded and said, "Well, honey, ask your mother. This wall is for the people who are here all the time and are part of our daily lives, the core family." And here's the thing, my mom was always bitter about me moving away to live with my husband. She was always the one saying family should be close-knit. I will admit though, I don't call as much as I should, we don't visit as much as we should, but again, I'm hours away. I have my own life to live, but that's beside the point. My mom just kept going on and on how she feels I abandoned them, and something in me just snapped. I said to her, "Well, then the people who are here all the time can pay for your bills, Mom." My mom's smile disappeared and she said, "Excuse me?" I respond, "You heard me. If we're not core family to you, and I know this is stupid, but if we're not worth a single picture on your wall, then the core family can handle their own financial emergencies." My mom's voice got shrill and she said, "You can't be serious right now." And with my mom shrieking, my brother and his wife came over. I said to her, "I'm dead serious. I want to know how much Dan contributed to Dad's medical bills." My brother says, "That's none of your business." My mom starts yelling, like full-on screaming, and says, "Don't you bring this up on your father's birthday. How dare you bring up money on your father's birthday? How dare you be so selfish and cruel?" I just respond, "Answer the question. How much did he give you, Mom?" My brother's wife actually had the nerve to say, "We're close, so we offered emotional support. Not everything is about money." I just laughed at that statement. I couldn't help it. I said, "Emotional support? I sent thousands upon thousands of dollars." At this, my brother gets defensive. He says, "We have expenses. School's not cheap. Mortgage isn't cheap." I just stop him right there and I say, "Your mortgage on the house you bought with your wife's trust fund? Yeah, that must be really hard." My mom started calling me ungrateful, saying I was ruining the family, and how could I start this on my dad's birthday? This whole argument lasted not even 5 minutes. I grabbed my purse, told my husband to get our kids, we're going home. On my way out, since being so heated, I turned around and said, "I'll be sending you a payment plan for the money. Since we're not your family, consider what I gave you a loan, Mom, with interest." My phone's been blowing up since last night. My mom sent me 17 text messages calling me heartless, and my dad sent one text that said, "Call me." My husband says I did the right thing, and my kids asked why grandma was so mean. I'm just sitting here looking at our bank statements, the loan we took out, and I just keep thinking about that stupid photo wall. But my mom's messages are getting to me. She says that family helps family without keeping score. She says that me blowing up was only punishing my father. She then sent me a long text message about how she's always loved me, but I do a great job of making it impossible. I don't know, maybe I shouldn't have said anything in front of everyone or blown up so quickly. Maybe I should have pulled her aside, and now I'm wondering if I could have handled it better. So am I the a-hole here? Yeah, in my opinion, I think this is an everyone sucks situation. Like, mom should not have made those jabs at OP, and OP definitely could have handled it better considering it was dad's birthday and they were there for dad's birthday. Or supposed to be there for dad's birthday. I do agree with OP's mom on one thing though, like the only person who was punished that day was dad, who might feel responsible for that family blow up, and that's the last thing he should be concerned about after having a stroke. The money part though, I don't know. Like guys, if you were in OP's shoes, would you be asking for the money back, or is what's done already done? Like, is a picture on a wall that important? Once again, leave your comments down below. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you won't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed yesterday's episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode where 3 kids get together and they teach a nasty Karen teacher a lesson she won't ever forget. It's such a great episode, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.